Hello everyone, welcome back to Mix TV. David here. Hope you're having a great day. As you can probably tell, I kind of like compressors. And that's my mobile rig. But people always ask me, what's your favorite for vocals? Well, in this video, I'll give you my top 10 favorite plugin compressor for vocals and my favorite settings. Here we go. Before we start, is it necessary to have a gigantic selection of compressors? Not really, but it's nice because different vocals, different songs require different compressors. And most times we put more than one compressor on vocals or any other element really. So it's nice to have a big toolbox because you never know what is going to happen in a mix. Let's start with the first one. The most simple of all of them. You should have this one not just for vocals, but for any kind of material that needs some leveling. It's the most transparent of all of them. It's the most simple to use, just two sliders and that's it. And it's Waves MV2. The characteristic of this one is, like I said, it's very transparent. It's more like a leveler. It's very gentle, but very efficient. One thing that is pretty unique in this one is the low level slider. So it doesn't just compress downwards, but it also expands the low level signal, making the action of the downward compression less necessary. So less artifacts, more transparent in the action, not just the color. Just to give you a quick run with it.
We won't dwell on the past and the shadow we cast. So unembraceable and at last, look it dead in the eye.
I exaggerated the low level signal to make you hear the difference between this part here at the beginning, which is so low in level as you can see, compared to the rest.
We won't dwell on the past and the shadow we cast. So unembraceable and at last, look it dead in the eyes.
Let's hear this bit here.
And at last, look it dead in the eyes. And at last, look it dead in the eyes.
It's pretty impressive what a difference in the low level signal without compressing it, of course, and not compressing that much the high level signal like here in the chorus.
All is erasable and there's nothing left here for you and I.
How balanced it is like this.
All is erasable and there's nothing left here for you and I.
And how the dynamic is wild without it. Wave MV2, definitely a must-have, not just for vocals, works amazing on bass and all the material, all the long-term material that requires leveling. Super transparent. That's my first one. The next one, I shouldn't even mention it because you see me using it all the time. You know, it's one of my favorite. That was one of the first one pointing this plugin out and how amazing it is. Still the benchmark for the kind of compression that it emulates, tube very mute compression, is the Clang Girl MJ you see. We all know this one. So it's amazing. 3 different kind of compression of emulation. It works amazing on vocals. Is on the color side, so although it has a drive knob here, you can run it driven or clean. Its action is more color than many other compressor, but it's an amazing color it has. This is definitely a must-have and super cheap. I will not talk about this too much because I do have a dedicated review on it. But yeah, just to run some audio through it.
So unembraceable and at last, look it dead in the eyes. The peel off the sky. All is erasable and there's nothing left here for you and I.
It impresses me every time when I hear how nicely it breaks up and start to saturate.
All is erasable and there's nothing left here for you and I.
And while I like MK1 version, MK3 is usually my favorite for vocals just because it has more control, more versatile, and it's an amazing color. And what can I say, MJ you see from Clang Girl is definitely one of my favorites for vocals. Let's get to the next one. It always surprises me that people don't think of this plugin as a vocal compressor. The API 2500 is an amazing vocal compressor. I know it's sold as a bus compressor, but it's a great vocal compressor. A first choice so many times. I have the hardware. In the hardware there's a trick you can do. You can unlink the channel and run one channel into the other. That is really something on vocals. But the Waves is great. I love it. I've always loved it. You saw me using it on so many things and vocals is one of them. I love the color, but the action of this compressor is what, for me, makes it really good for vocals. Among my favorite settings, 1.5 ratio in old mode, and play with the tone, with the thrust. Mad is my starting point, but if the vocals is a little too bright, usually loud can work well. It depends on the pattern, but just to give you an example, this is without.
So unembraceable and at last, look you dead in the eyes, the peel off the sky. All is erasable and there's nothing left here for you and I. So unembraceable and at last, look you dead in the eyes, the peel off the sky. All is erasable and there's nothing left here for you and I.
So you hear the 1.5 ratio, even in the tallest peak, it doesn't choke the vocals, and playing with the attack, it really changes how grabby the compressor is. On female vocals, I usually tend to like a slower attack on vocals in general, but it can work almost like a limiter, like a straight up limiter, especially if we put it in a new mode and the attack all the way fast. It will grab transient really quick.
So unembraceable and at last, look you dead in the eyes, the peel off the sky. All is erasable and there's nothing left here for you and I.
But you see and you hear, even when the needle jump, the compressor is pretty organic still, and it's not unpleasant to hear. Waves 2500, a great workhorse plugin. One of the first choices for me for vocals, especially for modern vocals. The next one, you probably saw this coming, the CLA 76 from Waves again. This is my favorite, the 76 emulation. I've always had kind of a hate-love relationship with 1176s. I had two original hardwares, and I actually compared those two hardwares with exactly this plugin. And I had them for years, and after I played with this plugin for a while, I just sold them. I wasn't using them that much, and this plugin was good enough for me for that 1176 sound. And I use it all the time. I don't feel like I'm missing my hardware 1176s, although recently I got a new hardware 1176. You can see it here, the Mimas. But I use that for tracking mostly, so I still use the CLA 76 for vocals all the time. Is really a workhorse on vocals, meaning it can really work depending on how you set it on any kind of vocal. And it's so versatile because you have the blue face and the black face, and the difference in saturation between the two, it's great. And also is one of those plugins with the secret saturation setting, so you can take the comp off. We saw that, and just drive the signal into it. If you haven't seen the video, there's a video with the 6 Waves plugins with secret saturation settings. That's one of them. But just to run some audio through it and give you some of my favorite settings, starting point. With this one, I usually start with the Attack 5. On the plugin, I usually start with the release at 6, so about 3 o'clock, which is usually where I end up with the hardware too, to be honest.
All is erasable and there's nothing left here for you and I.
You heard that last beat, that "for you and I," that line, the way the F sounds when it gets out of compression, that is really how a real 1176 sounds. And things like this are what sold me to this plugin. It's legit, and it works well.
There's nothing left here for you and I.
Okay, so without it,
there's nothing left here for you and I.
Stay quiet. You know, there's not that much energy without it. And actually the non-compressed file is louder than this, so I'm not fooling you with levels. What can I say? I really like it. Also, the all bottom mode is really interesting in this one.
There's nothing left here for you and I.
All bottom mode, I'm not a fan on vocals for obvious reason. It gets too aggressive, too unpredictable. But if you set the release not too fast, you can have some cool effects here and there.
There's nothing left here for you and I.
Okay, again, use usually too much on vocals unless you run the all bottom mode in parallel. But at that point, I prefer the distortion, adjusted this to run the distortion.
There's nothing left here for you and I. Nothing left here for you and I.
Without compression. And the blue phase.
There's nothing left here for you and I.
A full saturation, they sound pretty much the same, but when compressing, they definitely sound different.
There's nothing left here for you and I. Nothing left here for you and I. There's nothing left here for you and I.
Okay, the Bluey has a different gain staging, so at the same settings will compress more. Anyway, CLA 76 is definitely one of my favorite for vocals, rap vocals or rock vocals. That's one of my go-tos. The next one is not just a great, very versatile compressor, but it's just a great, very versatile channel strip. Is the Sheps OmniChannel. Everything in this plugin is great, from the preamp stage with all the different saturation to the de-esser, really one of the best de-essers out there, and decompressor. Decompressor is really interesting because it offers you, first of all the three types of compression in one plugin: VCA, FET, and Opto. And the sidechain is really well done. Let me quickly show you the three different type of compression.
So let me be what you ask me, please. So touch down your heart to my chest and fix what needs fixing.
Again, I really like the VCA on vocals. Maybe I'm one of the few, but I really like how VCA's compressors behave on vocals. FET.
So let me be what you ask me, please. So touch down your heart to my chest and fix what needs fixing.
You hear even at extreme settings, it sounds very different from the CLA 76, another FET compressor. It's less aggressive, less grungy, it's got less saturation, is more transparent while still maintaining that FET kind of vibe. We should probably add some saturation here from the pre section, but that's another test. Opto version.
So let me be what you ask me, please. So touch down your heart to my chest and fix what needs fixing. So let me be what you ask me.
You hear at the same settings, attack and release, how the release is different. You know, we talked about in previous videos on the difference between FET and Opto in the way they release, given the same time release. So one, the Opto stomps on the brakes, you know, it gets slower as approaches zero, it approaches the point in which it's not compressing anymore. The FET does the opposite. It gives you a way different sounds between the two, given the same release settings. This is well done here. Of course, it was well done by Waves already with the famous R compressor, which is still a standard. Still a lot of engineers, including myself, use that all the time. But yeah, Sheps OmniChannel. This is again a great compressor. The sidechain on this one is really, really well done. Actually, let me open up the vocals that we had before. Nelly from Ray Gun Romance. Great album I'm mixing right now. And we can tweak the sidechain to, for example, reacts to S's. In this case of her vocals though.
So unembraceable and at last, look you dead in the eyes.
Because she has a lot of energy in that low mid range, I would tweak the sidechain to react to that more than the S's. She has very smooth, very, very good sounding S's. So if we solo the sidechain,
so unembraceable and at last,
this would be the range I want the compressor to focus on more than the S's.
so unembraceable and at last, look you dead in the eyes, the peel off the sky, all is erased.
And have the compressor react more to this.
So unembraceable and at last, look you dead in the eyes, the peel off the sky.
This way it just balanced the vocals by itself, reacting to the range, the frequency range, she has more energy, so the vocals on those beats seems louder. But even if you're not using a multiband compressor or using a wideband, reacting to that specific frequency will balance the dynamic overall in the context of the song. So another great compressor for me for vocals is just a lot of bang for your bucks. It was probably kind of obvious looking at what's on my left that this plugin would have been in the list. Oerter by Empirical Lab is hands down one of my favorite plugin compressor for vocals, because the distressor is one of my favorite hardware compressor for vocals. Let's run a little bit of audio through it, but before that, you see these blue dots on the pots, on the knobs. These blue dots, basically, which is the starting point, the starting setup when you open Oerter, these are where the distressor settings would be if you don't touch them. But they added, like I said, that this attack modification, which is not on the hardware distressor. The saturation can be tweaked manually, independent from the input or the output levels, which is how you control it on the hardware, and all of the other channels as well, parametric EQ, sidechain detector. Why the distressor is one of my favorite? It's a standard. It works literally 8 times out of 10. By itself, it's not, if not, those other 2 times gonna be in the chain anyway. So let me just play a little bit with it.
So unembraceable and at last, look it dead in the eyes, the peel off the sky. All is erasable and there's nothing left here for you and I.
That's it, that's the sound.
So unembraceable and at last, look it dead in the eyes, the peel off the sky. All is erasable and there's nothing left here for you and I.
I'm running really high with the ratio. I actually used the distressor on her vocals, on Natalie vocals on the album, so I'm very familiar with it right now. It feels strange to redo it here with the plugin. You can see it also has, it's not written here, but the 10:1 ratio is basically the opto mode. So you can emulate LA2A behavior with it. You can also emulate the DBX 160, I think, behavior. So everything is in the manual, but
so unembraceable and at last, look it dead in the eyes, the peel off the sky. All is erasable and there's nothing left here for you and I. Why do we even try? There's nothing left here. We lost our whole world in one night.
Absolutely amazing. The detector sidechain, I'm not going to do a full review of this one. Detector sidechain, in the plugin you can actually pick the frequency on the real distressor is fixed around 6K, and you can decide if cutting or boosting that frequency. So if make the compressor react more or less to a specific range, you have a full parametric band here, so not just the frequency but also the bell, how wide or narrow it's going to be. You can just laser focus on maybe a specific consonant, S, T, B, anything. Then you have detector HPF, which is on the hardware, but it's not variable. In this case, you have a variable here on the plugin. This is, like I said, it has a couple of features that would be nice to have in the hardware. The hardware is perfect as is, but you just need too many of them. Like I have 4 and I need another 5. But it also has a very, very nice feature, dry compressed mix knob, so you can do parallel compression here. Again, it's one of my favorite, always has, and it's nice to have it in plugin version. Oerter from Empirical Lab, another must-have for vocals for me. Last one has been around for a long time, but it's still really, really nice. It has a really clean action. Is Teawrex optical compressor. Many knows this, and many knows how good it is. But like I said, it's not talked about that much, so I wanted to mention it. One of the characteristics is really clean. It really behaves like an opto compressor action-wise, and a really smooth opto compressor. It also has a mid-side functionality, this one. So let me play a little bit of audio through it.
So unembraceable and at last, look it dead in the eyes, the peel off the sky. All is erasable and there's nothing left here for you and I. Why do we even try? There's nothing left here. We lost our whole world in one night. So unembraceable and at last, look it dead in the eyes, the peel. So unembraceable and at last, look it dead in the eyes, the peel off the sky. All is erasable and there's nothing left here for you and I.
Yeah, I definitely didn't remember wrong. It thickens the vocal, the dynamics very nicely, and it's so very transparent in its action. It really does not have any coloration, any saturation, which most time is probably your best choice. Even though we all like colors, just try to be conservative, because you know, when you start having 100 tracks on a mix and everyone has a little bit of saturation, it starts to be too much. And especially of vocals, females vocals today, EDM vocals, dance, pop, clean dynamic control is absolutely important. It's not just all about color. The next one is one of my all-time favorite for pretty much any vocal. It's the Softtube TLA100A. Amazing sounding unit in hardware form. Softtube nailed this one. Very simple to use, just two knobs, very much like an LA2A, but it has enough options to make it so versatile. And it has two functions in particular that you only find in the plugin: the variable saturation independent from the input and output level, and the parallel inject, the parallel compression on board. Let's hear it in action and I'll show you my favorite settings.
So unembraceable and at last, look it dead in the eyes, the peel off the sky. All is erasable and there's nothing left here for you and I. Why do we even try? There's nothing left here. We lost our whole world in one night.
So one thing that I really like about this compressor is the action, and how the attack when in fast mode really keeps the vocal down, almost like a broadcast kind of compression. When in slow mode, it opens up and it releases the pressure while still compressing. It's a very natural curve. And the second thing that I really like is the saturation. Softtube made the saturation really dynamic on this one. So with this one, I usually don't really shoot for just compressing the tall peaks like you would do in an 1176. I use it more like a leveler, so I like to keep the vocal in the compression all the time.
So unembraceable and at last, look it dead in. So unembraceable and at last, look it dead in the eyes, the peel off the sky. So unembraceable and at last, look it dead in the eyes, the peel off the sky. All is erasable and there's nothing left here for you and I.
Let's hear that beat in clean mode.
All is erasable and there's nothing left here for you and I.
Saturation is great, but I love how clean and open this compressor sound, even when compressing something like 10 dB on the tallest peak. I left a new entry for last. It's called Audie RTL DC2. If you like to tweak things, this is your compressor. So it's an opto compressor. The characteristic of this compander, how Audie RTL called it, is that you can click here and change the opto cell. So opto compressors, of course, the attack and the release depends on what opto cell is inside, what component is inside the actual hardware. And there have been many experiments with different opto compressor, changing even the classics on the LA2A and so on. But Audie RTL took it to another level, and you can see here you have a long list of opto cells, and for each one you have the name, of course, and what's the attack and the release, so you can experiment like you would do with a real hardware opto compressor by swapping cells. This is kind of easier. You just click on a new opto cell and you have a different set of attack and release, probably a different knee. This compressor also has an expander section. You can see it has a mix knob, so you can do parallel compression. Even for this one, you can change opto cells, so even for the expander section, you have different attack and release. Controls are super easy. You have an input trim and an output trim and a compress knob. Sidechain filter if you want to take the low end out of the detector circuit. Let's swap cells. Let's see how this sounds really quick.
So unembraceable and it lasts. Look you dead in the eyes. The peel off the sky, all is erasable, and there's nothing left here for you and I. Why do we even try? There's nothing left here. We lost our whole world in one night. So unembraceable and it lasts. Look you dead in the eyes. The peel off the sky, all is erasable, and there's nothing left here for you and I.
To really hear the difference between the different attack settings and release settings, we should probably loop just one line, but I'm not here reviewing the thing, I just wanted to show it to you. But regardless the swapping of cells, this is a really nice opto compressor, and opto compressors are, as you know, very popular on Vocal for a reason. You can even drive hard this unit.
So unembraceable and it lasts. Look you dead in the eyes. The peel off the sky, all is erasable, and there's nothing left here for you and I. Why do we even try? There's nothing left here. We lost our whole world in one night.
It really thickens the vocals in a nice way. You can tell it starts saturating a little bit when you push the input. It's really a nice compressor. I don't think any other opto emulation has all the cells available that you can swap like this one. Audie RTL DC2, this was the last one for this list. And this is it for this video. These were my top 10 plugin compressor for vocals and my favorite starting point settings. I hope this video was useful. I hope you liked it. If you did, don't forget to leave a like. If you have any question about compression, about mixing, leave it in the comment down below. You will find in the info box all the links to the plugins we've seen in this video. Follow MixBuzz on Facebook and Instagram. We have exclusive content in there, a lot of pictures from studio sessions, and great news will be announced on those pages. Stay tuned, a bunch of new premium courses on recording, mixing, and mastering will be released soon on ProMix Academy. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time.